Dr. Maya Chen stood at the observation window of the Prometheus research station, her coffee growing cold in her hands. Somewhere out there, beyond the vast emptiness of space, a star was dying. Not in the slow, predictable way that stars usually ended their lives, but in a catastrophic collapse that threatened to tear apart the fabric of reality itself. The message had come 3 days ago. The Galactic Union, a loose confederation of hundreds of alien species, had sent an emergency broadcast to every inhabited world. The star Kepler 7891, located in the heart of the galaxy, was undergoing a strange collapse. The physics did not make sense to anyone. Instead of simply exploding or shrinking into a black hole, the star was folding in on itself in ways that created dangerous ripples through space and time. If the collapse continued, these ripples would spread outward like waves in a pond. Within months, they would reach inhabited systems. Within a year, they would tear apart the basic forces that held matter together. The universe itself would unravel. Maya had been summoned to the Emergency Council, meeting along with every other prominent scientist from Earth. The aliens had technology far beyond human understanding. They had faster-than-light travel, energy weapons that could destroy planets, and medical technology that made humans look like children playing with sticks. But none of them could solve this problem. The meeting room was filled with holographic projections of alien scientists from dozens of worlds. There were the Vrelians, tall and elegant with skin like polished silver. The Korthak were present too, massive beings that resembled walking mountains. The Sindari floated in tanks of purple liquid, their tentacles waving as they communicated through flashing lights. And many others, some so strange that Maya's mind could not quite process what she was seeing. High Arbiter Theshan, the leader of the Scientific Council, spoke first. His voice was deep and resonant, translated instantly by the universal communicator that every scientist wore. We have gathered the greatest minds of 347 species. We have run simulations on quantum computers that span entire moons. We have consulted ancient databases containing the knowledge of civilizations that died before your son was born. None of it has helped. The Vrelian representative, a scientist named Silver, shook her head slowly. The collapse defies our understanding of physics. The star is not simply dying. Something is happening at the quantum level that we cannot explain. Our instruments show readings that should be impossible. Maya listened carefully, her mind racing. She had studied astrophysics her entire life. She had published papers on stellar evolution, dark matter, and the fundamental forces of the universe. But this was beyond anything she had ever encountered. "May I see the data?" she asked quietly. There was a moment of silence. Some of the alien scientists exchanged glances that Maya could not interpret. She knew what they were thinking. Humans were newcomers to the galactic stage. They had only discovered faster-than-light travel 50 years ago, a gift from a friendly species that had taken pity on them. Compared to species that had been exploring the stars for millions of years, humans were infants. "Of course, Dr. Chen," said Theshan, though his tone suggested he did not expect much from her contribution. The data flooded her neural interface. Numbers, graphs, simulations, and observations from thousands of sensors around the dying star. Maya closed her eyes and let herself sink into the information. This was how she worked best, immersing herself completely in data until patterns emerged from the chaos. Hours passed. Other scientists came and went. Proposals were made and rejected. The Korthak suggested building a massive shield around nearby systems. The Sindari proposed evacuating the entire quadrant. Neither solution addressed the fundamental problem. The ripples would continue to spread until they destroyed everything. Maya barely noticed the passage of time. She was lost in the numbers, following threads of data deeper and deeper into the mystery. Something was wrong with the star, something that went beyond normal physics. The collapse was not random. It had a pattern, a structure that reminded her of something she could not quite identify. "It is like a song," she murmured to herself. "Excuse me," the voice startled her. She looked up to see Silver standing nearby, watching her with an expression that might have been curiosity. "The collapse," Maya explained. "It has a rhythm, a pattern. It is almost like music." Silver's silver skin rippled, which Maya had learned was a sign of deep thought among Vrelians. "Music? That is an unusual observation. What do you mean?" Maya struggled to put her intuition into words. "Look at the energy readings. They pulse in a regular pattern. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And the gravitational waves, they rise and fall like notes in a melody. It is not random. Something is causing this pattern." The Vrelian scientist leaned closer to the display, her eyes narrowing. "I see what you mean, but what could cause such a pattern? There is no natural phenomenon that would create these specific fluctuations." "Exactly," Maya said. "It is not natural. Something is doing this to the star. Something is making it collapse in this specific way." The implications of her words spread through the room like a shockwave. Scientists who had been engaged in other discussions fell silent. Holographic projections turned toward Maya, dozens of alien faces watching her with expressions she could not read. "Are you suggesting," Theshan said slowly, "that this collapse is artificial, that someone or something is deliberately causing it?" Maya nodded. "I do not know who or why, but the data supports this conclusion. The pattern is too regular, too structured to be natural. Someone built a machine that is killing this star, and if we can understand the machine, maybe we can stop it." The room erupted into chaos. Scientists shouted questions and objections. Some accused Maya of making unfounded claims. Others demanded to see her analysis. But underneath the noise, Maya could sense a current of hope. For days, they had been facing an incomprehensible natural disaster. Now they had an enemy, and enemies could be defeated. High Arbiter Theshan raised his hand for silence. "Dr. Chen's hypothesis is bold but not unreasonable. If the collapse is indeed artificial, then understanding its mechanism becomes our highest priority. We will form a special team to investigate this possibility." Maya felt the weight of what she had just done. She had not meant to put herself at the center of this crisis. But as the scientists began organizing themselves around her insight, she realized that there was no turning back. The fate of the universe might depend on what they discovered next. Outside the observation window, the stars continued to shine, unaware of the doom that threatened them all. The journey to Kepler 7891 took 3 weeks. Maya had never traveled in an alien ship before, and the experience was overwhelming. The Vrelian vessel was called the Silver Dream, a name that seemed fitting given its graceful design. The ship moved through space by folding the fabric of reality around itself, creating a bubble of normal space that traveled faster than light could in the universe outside. Maya spent most of the journey studying everything she could find about the dying star. The more she learned, the more convinced she became that her hypothesis was correct. The collapse was not natural. Someone had built a device of unimaginable power and aimed it at the heart of the star. But why? She was not alone on this mission. The team included scientists from 12 different species, each chosen for their expertise in various fields. There was Silver, who had become something like a friend to Maya during their time at the research station. There was a Korthak engineer named Gorak who could build anything from any material. The Sindari had sent a specialist in quantum mechanics named Ripple, so called because of the distinctive pattern of lights that played across their body. And there were 3 other humans. Dr. James Park was an expert in exotic matter and dark energy. Dr. Amara Okonkwo specialized in ancient alien technology, having spent decades studying ruins left behind by extinct civilizations. And Dr. Viktor Petrov was a theoretical physicist who had won multiple awards for his work on the fundamental forces of the universe. "I still think this is a waste of time," Viktor grumbled during one of their planning sessions. He was sitting in the ship's common area, his arms crossed over his chest. The idea that something could deliberately destabilize a star is absurd. We do not have the technology to do such a thing. Neither does any species we know of. That is precisely the point, Silver replied calmly. If Dr. Chen is correct, then we are dealing with technology far beyond our understanding. Perhaps technology left behind by a long-dead civilization. Or, James added, technology created by something still alive, something that does not want to be found. The thought sent a chill down Maya's spine. She had been so focused on the puzzle of the collapse that she had not fully considered its implications. If someone had built this device, they had done so for a reason, and that reason might not be friendly to the rest of the universe. As they approached the Kepler system, the readings became more disturbing. The star was visibly shrinking now, its outer layers falling inward at impossible speeds. The space around it was warped and twisted, filled with strange energies that defied classification. Ships from a dozen species hung at a safe distance, their sensors pointed at the dying star. "We are detecting something," Ripple announced, their lights flickering rapidly. "A structure at the core of the star. It is artificial, made of materials we do not recognize." Maya felt her heart racing. She had been right. There was something inside the star, something that should not exist. But what was it? And how could they get close enough to study it without being destroyed? Gorak lumbered over to the sensor display, his massive body making the floor vibrate with each step. "I can build a probe, something small enough to slip through the energy currents. It will not survive long, but it might send back data before it is destroyed." "Do it," Maya said. She looked around at her team, seeing determination in every face. They were scientists first and foremost. They wanted to understand. "We need to know what we are dealing with." The probe was ready within hours. Gorak worked with a speed and precision that seemed impossible for someone of his size. The small device was launched toward the dying star, its sensors recording everything they encountered. The data it sent back was fragmentary but clear. Deep within the star, at the very center of the collapse, there was a machine. It was vast, larger than some planets, and it was made of materials that did not exist in any database. The machine was not just causing the collapse. It was feeding on the star's energy, converting matter and light into something else entirely. "What is it doing with the energy?" Amara asked, her eyes wide as she studied the readings. Maya shook her head slowly. "I do not know, but look at these numbers. The amount of energy being released is enormous, bigger than anything we have ever measured. Whoever built this machine was not just trying to destroy a star. They were trying to accomplish something specific." Victor leaned forward, his skepticism replaced by fascination. "The energy signatures match theoretical predictions for creating a stable wormhole, a permanent tier in spacetime that could connect 2 points anywhere in the universe." "But why here?" James asked. "Why this star? Why now?" No one had an answer, but as Maya stared at the images of the ancient machine, she felt a growing sense of unease. Whatever purpose this device served, they were running out of time to stop it. The collapse was accelerating. Soon, the ripples would begin spreading outward, and nothing in the universe would be able to stop them. "We need to find a way inside," Maya said quietly. "We need to understand how this machine works, and then we need to shut it down." The alien scientists exchanged uncertain glances. What Maya was proposing was madness. No ship could survive the environment around the dying star. No probe could last more than seconds inside the machine. But the alternative was watching the universe die. "I have an idea," Gorak rumbled, "but you are not going to like it." The plan was simple in concept but terrifying in execution. Gorak would modify one of the shuttle crafts to withstand the extreme conditions around the star. A small team would fly inside the machine and attempt to shut it down manually. It was almost certainly a suicide mission. "I will go," Maya said immediately. Silver shook her head. "That is unacceptable. You are too valuable. Your insights have brought us this far. We cannot risk losing you." "Everyone on this ship is valuable," Maya replied. "And I am the one who understood the pattern. If there are more patterns inside that machine, I am the most likely to recognize them." The debate continued for hours. In the end, they agreed on a team of 4. Maya would lead the expedition. Gorak would pilot the shuttle and handle any repairs that might be needed. Ripple would analyze the machine's technology, and Victor would work on the physics of actually stopping the collapse. The modified shuttle was ready in 2 days. It looked nothing like the elegant craft it had once been. Gorak had covered it in layers of exotic materials, shields upon shields upon shields. The interior was cramped and uncomfortable, filled with emergency systems and backup power supplies. "This is the ugliest thing I have ever seen," Victor muttered as they climbed aboard. "Ugly keeps you alive," Gorak replied. There was something like affection in his rumbling voice. He was proud of what he had built. The launch was terrifying. The moment they left the Silver Dream, the forces around them tried to tear the shuttle apart. Maya felt herself pressed against her seat by acceleration, then thrown sideways as the ship dodged around debris and energy currents. Through the small window, she could see the star looming ahead, its surface a churning mass of fire and darkness. "Approaching the machine," Gorak announced. His massive hands moved over the controls with surprising delicacy. "Brace yourselves, this is going to get rough." The shuttle plunged through the outer layers of the star. Temperatures that would vaporize ordinary matter washed over them. But Gorak's shields held. They pushed deeper, following the signal from the machine at the star's core. And then they saw it. The machine was beautiful and horrifying at the same time. It was made of something that looked like crystal and metal woven together. It pulsed with light in complex patterns that seemed almost alive. At its center was a sphere of perfect darkness, a point where space itself had been torn open. "The wormhole," Victor breathed. "It is already forming." Maya stared at the sphere, trying to understand what she was seeing. The machine was not just destroying the star. It was using the star's death to power something else entirely, a doorway to somewhere else. "We need to get inside," she said. "Find the controls, shut it down." Gorak guided the shuttle toward a gap in the machine's structure. The shuttle scraped against crystalline walls as they entered, but the shields held. Inside, the machine was even more strange. Corridors twisted in directions that should not exist. The walls were covered in symbols that hurt Maya's eyes to look at. "These symbols," Ripple said, their lights pulsing with excitement. "They are a language, an extremely old language. I recognize some of the structures from ancient ruins we have studied. This machine was built by a species that existed billions of years ago." "Can you read it?" Maya asked. "Partially, it is a warning, something about a cycle, a recurring event. I need more time to translate." They did not have time. The machine was reaching its final stage. Through the walls, Maya could feel the star's matter rushing past them, feeding the growing wormhole. Soon, there would be nothing left but the darkness at the center. "There," Victor pointed to a chamber ahead. "That looks like a control center. We might be able to shut everything down from there." They moved forward carefully, their footsteps echoing in the strange corridors. The control center was a circular room filled with crystalline panels covered in the same symbols they had seen outside. At the center was a pillar of light that reached up into darkness. "This is it," Maya said. "This is where they controlled the machine." She approached the nearest panel, trying to make sense of the symbols. They were arranged in patterns, some simple and some incredibly complex. It was like looking at music written in an alien language. And then she understood. "It is not just a language," she said slowly. "It is a program, a set of instructions. The builders of this machine left behind a way to control it." "Can you stop the collapse?" Victor asked urgently. Maya studied the symbols, her mind racing. The pattern she had seen before was here too, the 1-2-3 rhythm that had first caught her attention. But it was more complex now, more nuanced. It was not just music, it was a symphony. "I think so," she said, "but I need everyone's help. Gorak, look for any physical mechanisms that might need to be adjusted. Ripple, keep translating those symbols. Victor, I need you to calculate the exact moment when we need to act. The timing has to be perfect." They worked in frantic silence. Outside, the star continued to collapse. Inside the machine, Maya felt like she was learning to read a new language, one symbol at a time. The builders had been incredibly advanced, but they had also been practical. They had designed their machine to be understood by anyone smart enough to find it. "I have it," she said finally. "I know what we need to do." The others gathered around her, their faces tense with anticipation. "The machine is not broken," Maya explained. "It is working exactly as designed. The builders created it to harvest energy from dying stars and create wormholes, but they built in safeguards, ways to stop the process if something went wrong." "Why would they need safeguards?" Gorak asked. "Because they were not trying to destroy anything. They were trying to build something, a network of wormholes connecting distant points in the universe, but they disappeared before they could finish. The machine has been waiting here dormant until something triggered it to activate." "What triggered it?" Victor asked. Maya shook her head. "I do not know, but that does not matter right now. What matters is that we can stop it. We just need to enter the correct sequence." Her hands moved over the crystalline panel, following the pattern she had discovered. The symbols responded to her touch, lighting up in sequence. The rhythm was there, the 1-2-3 that had first caught her attention, but now she understood it was just one part of a larger melody. The machine began to change. The pulsing lights shifted their pattern. The darkness at the center of the control room began to shrink. Outside, Maya knew, the same thing was happening to the wormhole. "It is working," Ripple said, their lights flashing with excitement. "The collapse is slowing." But something was wrong. Maya could feel it in the vibrations running through the floor. The machine was fighting back. "Warning," a voice said. It came from everywhere and nowhere, translated by their devices into words they could understand. "Shutdown sequence initiated. Protective measures engaging. All intruders will be eliminated." The walls around them began to glow with dangerous energy. "Run!" Gorak shouted. He grabbed Maya and threw her over his shoulder, charging toward the shuttle with the others close behind. The corridor collapsed behind them as they ran. The machine was destroying itself rather than allow them to stop it. Maya felt the heat on her back, the pressure of forces that could crush a planet. They reached the shuttle just as the control center exploded. Gorak threw them inside and launched the craft with desperate speed. Behind them, the ancient machine tore itself apart. But Maya's sequence had worked. Through the shuttle's sensors, she could see the wormhole collapsing. The darkness at the center of the star was shrinking. The collapse was revering. "We did it," Victor said in disbelief. "We actually did it." Maya slumped in her seat, exhaustion washing over her. They had stopped the immediate crisis, but they had also destroyed the machine, along with all its secrets. "Not completely," she said quietly. "The star is stabilizing, but it is badly damaged, and we still do not know why the machine activated in the first place." She looked out at the dying star, now slowly recovering from its near collapse. Somewhere out there, something had triggered this crisis, and she had a feeling this was just the beginning. The journey back to the Silver Dream was quiet. Everyone was exhausted from the mission, their minds struggling to process what they had experienced. Maya sat by the window, watching the star slowly stabilize in the distance. The ripples that had threatened to destroy the universe were fading, absorbed back into the fabric of space-time. But something still bothered her. The machine had been waiting for billions of years. Why had it activated now? What had triggered it? "You are thinking loudly," Silver said, settling into the seat beside her. The Vrelian scientist looked as elegant as ever, despite the stress of recent days. Maya smiled tiredly. I cannot stop thinking about the machine. Its builders left behind such advanced technology. They must have been incredibly powerful, but they disappeared. Why? Many species have risen and fallen over the history of the universe, Silver replied. Even the most powerful civilizations eventually end. Disease, war, natural disasters. Or perhaps they simply evolved beyond physical form and left our reality behind. Maybe, Maya said, but she was not convinced. The machine had not been abandoned. It had been waiting. And the warning that had sounded when they tried to shut it down suggested that someone was still monitoring it. When they returned to the Silver Dream, they found the other scientists gathered in the main conference room. The holographic display showed images of the stabilized star, now returning to normal, but the faces around the table were not celebrating. We have a problem, High Arbiter Theshan said grimly. While you were inside the machine, our sensors detected something else. Another energy signature, similar to the one at Kepler 7891. Maya felt her stomach drop. Another machine. Yes, in a different star system on the other side of the galaxy, and not just one. We have now detected similar signatures in 17 different locations. The room fell silent. 17 machines, 17 stars in danger of collapse, and if each one created ripples like the first, the combined effect would be unstoppable. Why now? James asked. These machines have been dormant for billions of years. Why are they all activating at the same time? No one had an answer, but Maya was already thinking ahead. They had stopped one machine. They could stop others, but they needed to work faster, smarter. The machine at Kepler 7891 destroyed itself when we entered the shutdown sequence, she said. If the others have the same protective measures, we cannot afford to set them off. We need a different approach. What do you suggest? Theshan asked. Maya took a deep breath. We need to understand the machines better before we try to shut them down. Ripple was translating the symbols when we had to flee. If we can finish that translation, we might find information about the builders, who they were, why they created the machines, and maybe why the machines are activating now. That will take time, Ripple said. Months, perhaps years. Then we work faster, Maya replied. We split up, send teams to each of the machines, gather data, collect samples of the symbols, share everything we learn across the entire network of scientists. We have the greatest minds from hundreds of species. If we work together, we can solve this. Theshan looked around the room, seeing the determination on every face. It is an ambitious plan, but I do not see an alternative. Very well, we will proceed as Dr. Chen suggests. Over the following weeks, the scientific community of the Galactic Union mobilized like never before. Ships were dispatched to each of the 17 star systems. Research stations were established at safe distances from the dying stars, and a constant stream of data flowed between them, analyzed by minds of every shape and origin. Maya led the effort from a command center on the Silver Dream. She barely slept, spending every waking moment coordinating the research and studying the incoming data. The other human scientists worked alongside her, contributing their own expertise to the collective effort. I have something, Amara announced one morning. She looked exhausted but excited, her eyes bright with discovery. The symbols Ripple translated from the first machine. I have been comparing them to ruins I studied earlier in my career. There are similarities. Maya hurried to her station, followed by several other scientists. The holographic display showed two sets of symbols side by side. They were not identical, but the structural similarities were unmistakable. These ruins, Maya said, where are they? A dead world called Praxis 7. The species that lived there went extinct millions of years ago, but their ruins are remarkably well preserved. And look here. Amara pointed to a specific sequence of symbols. This phrase appears in both the machine and the ruins. It translates roughly as the Great Cycle or the Turning of Ages. What does that mean? Victor asked. Amara shook her head. I do not know, but I think we need to visit Praxis 7. There might be more information there, something that could explain what is happening. The journey to Praxis 7 took 2 weeks. Maya used the time to study everything they knew about the extinct civilization that had once lived there. They had called themselves the Architects, and they had been builders on a cosmic scale. They had constructed space stations, habitats, and research facilities across hundreds of star systems. And then, about 4 million years ago, they had simply vanished. Some species evolved beyond physical form, Silver had said, but Maya was beginning to suspect the truth was more complicated. Praxis 7 was a dead world. Its surface was covered in the ruins of cities that had once housed millions. The atmosphere had long since drifted away, leaving everything preserved in the vacuum of space. It was like a museum frozen in time. The landing party consisted of Maya, Amara, Victor, and several alien scientists. They descended to the surface in environmental suits, their boots leaving prints in dust that had not been disturbed for millions of years. This way, Amara said, leading them through the silent streets. The main archive should be in the central complex. The archive was a massive structure, its walls covered in the same symbols they had seen in the machine. Maya felt a chill as she looked at them. The architects had known about the machines. They had built them, or at least understood them. Inside, the archive was filled with crystalline storage devices. Ripple connected to them with specialized equipment, their lights flickering as they absorbed vast amounts of data. This is incredible, Ripple said. The architects recorded everything. Their history, their science, their philosophy, and here is what we need. The holographic display came to life, showing images and text in the architect's language. Ripple translated as quickly as they could. The machines are called collectors. They were built to harvest energy from dying stars. The architects used this energy to power their civilization, but something went wrong. What? Maya asked. The collectors were designed to activate automatically when they detected certain conditions. The architects thought they had millions of years before those conditions would be met. But they were wrong. The collectors activated earlier than expected, and the architects could not stop them. Did the collectors destroy them? Victor asked. No. Ripple paused, their lights pulsing in a pattern Maya did not recognize. The architects did not die. They fled. They used the wormholes created by the collectors to escape to another dimension, another reality entirely. The implications were staggering. The architects had not gone extinct. They had simply left, and they had abandoned their machines behind, still running, still harvesting stars. But why are the collectors activating now? Maya asked. What are the conditions they detect? Ripple searched through the data. Here, the collectors are designed to activate when they detect the emergence of a new species capable of stellar travel in their region of the galaxy. Maya felt the blood drain from her face. They activated because of us, because humans discovered faster-than-light travel. The room was silent as the truth sank in. The collectors had been waiting for new civilizations to emerge, and when they did, the machines activated, harvesting stars and creating wormholes. But why? There is more, Ripple said. The wormholes are not just doorways, they are invitations. When the collectors finish their work, they open a portal to wherever the architects went. The architects wanted new species to join them. An invitation, Victor laughed bitterly. An invitation that destroys entire star systems, that threatens to unravel the universe. The architects did not understand the side effects, Ripple explained. They thought the process would be harmless. By the time they realized the truth, it was too late. They could not stop the machines, so they fled instead. Maya stared at the holographic display, her mind racing. The architects had not been malevolent. They had made a mistake, a terrible mistake that now threatened every living thing in the galaxy. But they had also left behind everything they knew, their technology, their science, their understanding of the collectors. "We can use this," she said slowly. "The architects could not stop the machines, but maybe we can. We have their data now. We know how the collectors work, and we have something they did not have." "What is that?" Silver asked. Maya looked around at the team of scientists from a dozen different species. "We have each other. The architects were one species, alone in the universe. We are many, hundreds of civilizations working together. If we combine our knowledge with theirs, we might find a solution they never thought of." The journey back to the command center was filled with urgent discussion. Everyone was analyzing the data, looking for weaknesses in the collectors, searching for ways to shut them down without triggering their self-destruct mechanisms. Victor was the first to find something. "Look at this," he said, pointing to a technical schematic. "The collectors draw power from the stars they are harvesting, but there is a critical threshold. If the star's output drops below a certain level, the collector goes into standby mode." "How do we reduce a star's output?" James asked. "We cannot," Victor admitted. "Not with our technology, but—" He trailed off, staring at the schematic. Maya understood what he was thinking. But the architects could. They had technology that could manipulate stars. Yes, and according to this data, some of that technology might still exist. Hidden caches, scattered across the galaxy. Emergency supplies that the architects left behind. The hunt for the architect caches became the top priority. Teams spread out across the galaxy, searching for hidden repositories of ancient technology. Some caches had been destroyed by time. Others were empty, looted by unknown scavengers, but a few remained intact. Maya was present when they opened the largest cache, located in an asteroid field at the edge of known space. Inside, they found devices that made even the most advanced alien technology look primitive. Machines that could manipulate gravity, generators that drew power from the fabric of spacetime itself, and most importantly, stellar dampeners that could reduce a star's output without damaging it. "This is it," Maya said, holding one of the dampeners in her hands. It was surprisingly small, no larger than a football. "This is how we save the universe." The plan was elegant in its simplicity. They would deploy stellar dampeners at each of the 17 stars being targeted by collectors. When the star's output dropped below the critical threshold, the collectors would enter standby mode. Then, teams could enter the machines safely and initiate proper shutdown sequences. But there was a problem. They only had enough dampeners for 12 stars. 5 collectors would continue their work, creating wormholes and generating the ripples that threatened to destroy everything. "We need to prioritize," Theshan said grimly. "Choose which stars to save." "No," Maya said firmly. "We save them all, we just need to be creative." She gathered her team together. The dampeners work by creating a field that interferes with fusion reactions. We cannot make more dampeners, but maybe we can amplify their effect. Extend their range so one dampener can affect multiple stars. "That would require enormous amounts of energy," Victor said doubtfully. "We have enormous amounts of energy," Maya replied. "The collectors themselves are harvesting stellar energy. What if we could tap into that, use their own power against them?" It was a wild idea, but the scientists of the Galactic Union threw themselves into making it work. Engineers from 100 species collaborated on designs. Physicists calculated the precise frequencies needed. Programmers wrote algorithms that could adapt in real time to changing conditions. And in the end, it worked. The modified dampeners were deployed across the galaxy, each one connected to a network of relay stations that amplified their signal. When Maya gave the order, they activated simultaneously, sending waves of interference through 17 star systems. The collectors faltered, their lights dimmed, their deadly harvest slowed and then stopped. Standby mode confirmed on all 17 targets, Ripple announced. Their lights were flashing in a pattern that Maya now recognized as joy. The collectors are dormant. Cheers erupted across the fleet. Scientists from hundreds of species celebrated together, united by their shared victory. Maya felt tears streaming down her face as she watched the holographic display showing 17 stable stars, 17 disasters averted. But there was still work to do. Over the following months, teams entered each collector and initiated proper shutdown sequences. The ancient machines powered down gracefully, their billion-year mission finally ended, and the wormholes they had been creating collapsed harmlessly, leaving nothing behind but memories. When the last collector went dark, High Arbiter Theshan called a special session of the Galactic Council. Representatives from every species gathered to acknowledge what had been accomplished. "We faced extinction," Theshan said, his voice carrying across the vast chamber. "A threat that none of us could have defeated alone, but together we prevailed, and at the center of our victory stood the humans of Earth." Maya stood before the council, feeling small and humbled by the attention. "We did not do this alone. Every species contributed. Every scientist played a role. The Vrelians shared their ships. The Korthak built our tools. The Sindari analyzed the data. We succeeded because we worked together." "True," Theshan acknowledged. "But it was human insight that first recognized the threat, human creativity that found the solution, and human determination that saw it through to the end." He paused, looking around the chamber. "For too long, we have treated humans as newcomers, as children still learning to walk among the stars. Today, we recognize them as equals, partners in the great work of exploring and protecting our universe." The applause was thunderous. Maya looked at her fellow humans, seeing pride and wonder in their faces. They had proven themselves, not through strength or conquest, but through ingenuity and cooperation. Later, when the celebrations had ended and the crowds had dispersed, Maya stood alone at an observation window. The stars shone peacefully in the darkness, each one a reminder of what they had saved. Silver joined her as she often did. "What are you thinking about?" Maya smiled. "The architects. They left us an invitation to join them, a doorway to another reality. We closed it, but I cannot help wondering what might have been on the other side." "Perhaps someday we will find out," Silver said. "Not through their machines, but through our own efforts, together." Maya nodded, feeling hope bloom in her chest. The universe was vast and full of mysteries, but humanity would face them together with their new friends and allies, and whatever challenges lay ahead, she knew they would find a way to overcome them. Because that was what humans did. They solved problems, they found solutions, they never gave up. And in the end, their ingenuity had prevented universal doom.